When I-25F was 9, my parents adopted my sister, Jen, who was 7 at the time. Jen was thin and fearful due to being neglected. We did everything to make her feel loved. We bought her lots of toys. Everything Jen wanted, she got. When my parents asked me to move to the smaller bedroom so Jen could have my room, I was happy to. When they asked if I would let Jen pick the decorations and cake for my upcoming birthday, I agreed. I was so happy to have a sister, and I understood why my parents gave her special treatment. Only the treatment didn't stop. For years, every trip we went on, we had to do what Jen wanted to do. We had to eat where she wanted to eat. And she got to plan all MY birthday parties. If she didn't get what she wanted, she threw a tantrum. I still felt loved and cared for by my parents. They drove me to practices, bought me things, cooked meals for me, spent quality time, and gave me advice, but I was always second to Jen. As I got older, I did anything I could to leave the house. I got my first job when I was 12. I vacationed with friends instead of family. I played 3 different sports and did band. I took my driver's test the day I turned 16 and bought a car the day after. I went to college on the other side of the country. Now that I make good money, I do things I missed as a child. I take fancy vacations and throw elaborate parties as I please. My wedding was no exception. My fiancé, Kip, and I wanted everything to be perfect. We thought it would be fun to have a color scheme. My favorite color is yellow, and his is blue, so my guests would wear yellow, his would wear blue, and mutual friends would wear green. I picked out a dress with green embroidered details, and he picked a boutonniere with green flowers. When Jen found out about this, she was mad. I didn't know this, but she hates yellow and it washes her out. She told me under no circumstances would she wear yellow. I shrugged and said that was fine. I would just kick her out if she did not wear yellow. There was no further discussion, but on my wedding day Jen came in a purple dress. I told her to leave immediately. The color scheme was perfect and she ruined it. Jen refused to leave until I threatened to call security. The rest of the wedding went smoothly, but afterwards my parents were furious with me for kicking Jen out. I told them that I warned her she would be kicked out if she didn't follow the color scheme, but they said they all thought it was a joke. They said it was cruel of me to kick my sister out over something so trivial. I told them this was my wedding that I threw without their support, so I can kick out whoever I want to. Kip came rushing to defend me and even told my parents they should be ashamed of how they treated me, but over the past few days, a lot of people I've talked to, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, have been mixed. Some say they wouldn't have even invited Jen if they were me, while others think I should have let it slide.
Comment 1. NTA. I have been to weddings where the bride and groom wanted a color scheme. To date I have not known of anyone who had such a problem that they showed up in a different color just for spite. Because make no mistake about it, that is exactly why your sister showed up in purple, pure spite. If the color yellow was really the problem, she could have asked to wear blue. Instead, she showed up in purple with the express intention of upstaging the bride and groom and causing a scene, knowing all the time that your parents would back her up. Your parents have been shitty to you ever since your sister showed up. Time to call them and your sister out for their obnoxious behavior and blatant favoritism. Comment 2. This. She could have gotten to know the groom and gone with green. She could have talked through what constitutes yellow, golden, amber, and tried to find something she could work with. She could have been washed out for a day. Heck, she could have opted not to attend because she didn't want to wear yellow. So many options that aren't FU. I am stomping all over your desires. Absolutely OP is NTA. Hi. 33M. My wife, 32M, is very pregnant, 8 months, with our first child. We've been together for almost 15 years now, and just recently, shortly after she got pregnant, she revealed that she was sexually abused by one of her uncles when she was a child. I won't get into details, but it happened from ages 9 to 12 and the stuff he did to her was horrible and disgusting. I'm the first person she's ever told, and she said the reason she wanted me to know was because she's been having nightmares about him hurting our baby and she doesn't want our child anywhere near the guy. She's also the first in the family to have a baby, and she's been trying to find a way to speak to the family about this because she doesn't want any of her future nieces and nephews to be around him either. I've been encouraging her to speak with her mother for months, but she tears up whenever the topic comes up, and getting her to talk about it, even with me, is like pulling teeth. I suggested she find a therapist, and even offered to go with her if it would make it less scary, but she says she's not ready to talk about it. Anyways, her parents are in a book club and they do a lobster bake once a year and invited us. I thought it was going to be the book club plus my wife's 2 brothers, but they invited several other relatives, including the uncle. This was the first, and hopefully last, time I've seen him since my wife told me what he did, so it was the first time I noticed how visibly scared and uncomfortable my wife gets around him. And the guy had the audacity walk up to my pregnant wife and hug her after what he did to her. When I saw that, I went over to them and told him never to put his hands on her again. The uncle went completely white, walked away, and I heard from my mill he left the party immediately after. Even after he left, I was angry all night. My wife says I was overreacting, but seeing him talking to her and hugging her like everything was completely normal between them was just too much. I asked my wife several times if we could leave, and she said she wanted to stay. She said I could leave and her brother could give her a ride home, but to be honest, I didn't want to leave her alone in case the uncle came back. Again, she says I'm overreacting. At one point, my mother-in-law came up to me and said the uncle told her he left because I made him feel unwelcome. She asked if there was a problem, and I said I wasn't going to just sit there and watch a child molester hug my pregnant wife. My mother-in-law was visibly shocked, and when she asked what I meant, I told her the uncle molested my wife and it's clearly eating her up inside, but she's too scared to talk to anyone about it. My mother-in-law told her husband and her 2 sons, and that night there was a sort of family meeting to discuss what happened/what to do. My wife was sobbing, and couldn't even get the words out, so I pretty much filled the family in on what happened to her. As I thought they would be, the entire family was both devastated, there were lots of tears, and supportive of my wife. They've encouraged her to speak with a therapist, she recently had her first session, and also file a police report, which she's done, so he can't do it to someone else and can hopefully get some peace. The last few days my wife has been crying non-stop and doesn't really get out of bed. It's clear she's incredibly hurt by what I did. She said she wasn't ready to talk about it, and I strong-armed her into it. She also said it took a lot for her to tell me, and I broke her trust by impulsively blurting out the truth to her mom. My wife's older brother has told her I did the right thing, and that any man would have that reaction, if not a worse reaction, if they saw the guy who did that to their wife. I can tell my wife is trying to forgive me, but is having a hard time. I feel conflicted. Honestly, telling her mom was an emotional reaction to seeing that guy touch my pregnant wife, and I wouldn't have done it under different circumstances. I obviously feel horrible I've opened up this can of worms before my wife was ready and that I've made her so unhappy. On the other hand, I'm happy she's now seeing a therapist and has filed a police report. Most of all, I'm glad her family finally knows the truth so she never has to be around that man again and she won't have the stress of having to tell them with a new baby. Basically, I go back and forth between feeling relieved my wife has started the healing process and devastated that I broke her trust, as she says. Comment 1. NTA. I say this as someone whose husband did the exact same thing to me. I wasn't ready for the truth to come out, but the ugly truth is I never would have been. My family wasn't supportive and I lost them all, but why would I want people around my children who supported a sexual abuser? I was the adult that chose to get pregnant, and that means protecting my kids at all costs and respecting my husband's input as a parent. Exposing and not allowing your children around offenders is a black and white thing. It doesn't matter who gets hurt in the process of protecting children. Comment 2. It's a complex situation with no easy answers. You reacted emotionally, and while your intentions were good, it seems your wife wasn't ready to share her trauma. However, you've potentially started a healing process that could ultimately help her in the long run. Try to understand her perspective, apologize for the way you handled it, and assure her of your continued support as she navigates this difficult journey. My 27F friend, Jordan, 28F, is a wonderful artist. I love her work, so I told her that if she ever considered doing commission pieces, I wanted to be her first customer. She said okay, and I sent her a picture of my dad who passed away as a reference. I wanted to give this painting to my mom as a gift. This was back in early 2018. Jordan said she would start on it when she could, but that she was busy. I just thought she did not want to do any commission work yet and just left it at that. A few weeks after our conversation, Jordan posted on social media saying that she was open to do commission pieces and posted how she would charge for those pieces. I messaged her again and she said that she got my order and was starting the piece for me. Per her post, I assumed the piece would be around $200. She also said she was charging her clients around that much, so I should expect to pay about the same. She said she didn't want me to pay it until after she was done, so I didn't. For the last 6 years, she would post the other commission pieces she had done. When I asked about mine, she would say she's working on it but that she hasn't had the time to finish it. She often lost her job, was looking for a new place to stay, etc. I understood that times could be hard, so I waited. The reason I didn't just stop asking her was because she would sometimes send me Snapchats, odd sneak peeks of the painting, so I knew she was working on it little by little. Well, flash forward to last weekend, she finally gave it to me. It is a beautiful painting of my dad and I cried looking at it. She then told me it was $700. I was not prepared to pay that much. I told her that when she started doing commissions, she was charging her clients $200, $300. She responded saying that she realized her work was worth more, and also the cost of supplies had gone up since then, plus the amount of time spent working on it. I thought it was unfair to charge me so much given I waited years for this painting. Also within the last 6 years, I had gotten married, bought a house, and have 2 young children. I do not just have $700 to spare on this painting. She told me that it isn't her fault that I can't afford it and refused to give it to me until I could pay her. I told her to just keep it since I didn't not have the money for it. She called me a J for wasting her time on this and left. Comment 1. I was so ready to vote the other way based on the title, but you are absolutely not the a-hole. The second, and I mean the second she decided that her work was worth more, she should have contacted you and discussed the particulars. NTA Comment 2. NTA My wife is an artist who often takes commissions. She sets prices and timelines before she starts actually working on a piece, because that's what professionals do. I'm in a pretty tough spot and need some outside perspectives. I'm a 23-year-old female, and recently, I discovered something that has shattered my world. My boyfriend, who I'll call Jake, M25, and my best friend, let's call her Emily, F24, have betrayed me in the worst way possible. Jake and I have been together for 3 years. We've had our ups and downs, like any couple, but I truly believed he was the one. Emily and I have been friends since college. She's been like a sister to me, always there through thick and thin. Or so I thought. Last weekend, I planned a small surprise party for Jake's birthday. Emily was, of course, on the guest list, and she even helped me with some of the arrangements. I thought everything was going well until I noticed Jake and Emily acting strangely. They were whispering to each other, sharing secretive looks, and at one point, I caught them holding hands when they thought no one was looking. At first, I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe I was just being paranoid. But the nagging feeling wouldn't go away. So, I did something I'm not proud of. I looked through Jake's phone while he was asleep. What I found confirmed my worst fears. There were hundreds of messages between him and Emily, some of them explicitly romantic and others suggesting they had been meeting up behind my back for months. I was devastated. I couldn't believe the 2 people I trusted most in the world could do this to me. The next day, I confronted Jake. He didn't deny it. Instead, he tried to justify it by saying that he and Emily had fallen for each other and didn't know how to tell me. As if that made it any better. Heartbroken and furious, I kicked Jake out of my apartment. Then, I called Emily and told her I knew everything. She started crying, apologizing, and saying she never meant to hurt me. But her tears meant nothing to me. I told her our friendship was over and that I never wanted to see her again. Since then, I've been getting messages from mutual friends saying that I overreacted, that love is complicated, and that I should try to forgive them. They say that I'm being cruel by cutting both Jake and Emily out of my life completely. But I feel like what they did is unforgivable. Comment 1. NTA Ending the relationship with your boyfriend and cutting ties with your best friend is a perfectly valid response. You don't owe them anything, especially not forgiveness if you're not ready for it. Their apologies might seem sincere, but actions speak louder than words. They both made choices that hurt you deeply, and it's up to you to decide if you can ever trust them again. Comment 2. Ending relationships with people who have deeply hurt you is not an overreaction, it's a necessary step for your healing process. Sometimes, the betrayal is so severe that maintaining contact would only prolong your suffering and hinder your recovery. Your feelings are valid, and it's important to give yourself the space you need to heal.